It was a rainy day in Minneapolis. A good day to go thrifting. There wasn't a whole lot at the thrift store that day, but I did find this little nightstand or end table. It was pretty rough, but I liked the style and it was only $10. So I picked it up. The finish was in pretty bad shape. It had a few chips in the veneer, and the veneer on the base was coming off in the back corner. First, I removed the spiders. Next, I took off the back panel, and this would make it a lot easier to refinish the inside. And once the back panel was off and the drawer was taken out, it was easy to see inside that the veneer they used for the interior was not walnut. It was a lot lighter. There were some green streaks in the grain that looked kind of like poplar. And you could see here how they finished it at the factory. You can see that they sprayed a dark finish over the part that was visible underneath the drawer. And then on the top, where the drawer was, you could see where the finish dripped from the outside. So it looks like they sprayed a dark finish over the light veneer on the inside to make it look more like the walnut veneer that was used on the outside of the cabinet. And then that finish that dripped over on the top, that was probably a stain that they used on the outside, or maybe a glaze. Next, it was time to strip the finish. And there's not really much to this. You just want to put on a nice thick coat and then remove it. But don't take it off too fast. You want to let it do its work, and then once it's ready, then you can remove it. And I usually take it off with a spatula. And then I go over it with some steel wool and mineral spirits just to clean off any residue. To fix this veneer that was coming off, I just put some wood glue in there and put a clamp on it, and that was it. To fix this big gouge, I first used some wood filler. I just filled it in and let it dry, but then I realized that the wood filler wouldn't be the best solution for an edge repair like that. So instead, I decided to use some epoxy wood putty. So I chipped out all the filler that I just put in. Then I used epoxy wood putty to fill it in. And the epoxy putty comes in a tube, and you just slice off as much as you'll need, and then knead it together. You want to get the two parts mixed together evenly. And then just start putting it into the repair and shape it as best you can. I like to get it as close as I can to the final shape before it dries, so then I have less sanding to do. And it helps if you get it a little wet. Your finger won't stick to it as much when you're shaping it. For the sanding, I used an orbital sander, and I started with 150 grit, then went to 180, and then 220. In the base, I just sanded by hand. And I didn't strip the finish off this because it's just going to get painted over again anyway. After the sanding, I applied a stain, and I used a gel stain for this. And it's just a walnut gel stain by General Finishes. I put it on with a foam brush, and then wiped it off with a paper towel. As you can see here, the spot where I used the epoxy putty still needed some attention after the initial stain had been put on. So I just took a small brush and some more of the gel stain and just lightly went over it just to try to blend it into the rest of the piece. This section around the drawer and also the base both got black paint, which is what it originally had. And I just used a latex black paint and brushed it on. Once the stain and the paint had dried, I went over the whole piece with some satin spray lacquer. And the last step was to put the back panel back on. The rain still hadn't stopped once I finished the project, so I couldn't take it out to the driveway for my traditional closing shot. So here it is in my dimly lit garage. Thanks for watching.